Yo, what's up guys? JT back here with another video. This is of course model railroad in the Southwest, and now what I have here today is a how-to video on how to build a retaining wall from scratch. So we're going to build a retaining wall from just pieces of styrene, and I'm going to show you guys a step-by-step process on how I do that. So this retaining wall is going to be 48 inches long. It's going to start from this side over here, and it's going to stretch all the way over here to where this piece of foam board stops right here. So the reason I'm going to build this retaining wall is because I need to do the transition from the track down to this foam board right here, and that's the best way I could think to do it as realistic as possible, because if it was just kind of like a dirt embankment, it just won't look realistic. So this retaining wall is going to be the back wall to the Starbucks that's going to go over here, and also the international dealerships that's going to go over here. So we're going to get this retaining wall built, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So let's get started. Alrighty guys, so this is what I'm going to use to make the retaining wall here. So first off is this styrene sheet from Evergreen Scale Models. The item number for this one is 9040. For the strips, the item number is 137, and for the pieces 175. So I get these at Hobby Lobby, and the reason is because I can just go there and get it right away, and I don't have to wait for shipping. So Playstruck plastic weld, that's what I'm going to use for the cement. That stuff is very good stuff. It makes for very quick work. I'm going to use an X-Acto knife and a 6-inch ruler, and also a straight edge that's not in the video here. Also use a pencil. Don't use a Sharpie, just because sometimes even if you prime the plastic before you paint it, sometimes the Sharpie shows up and it doesn't look very good. So let's get started. Alrighty guys, so here's the general idea of this retaining wall. So for the top here, I'm going to use this styrene piece, which is the 137, for the cap for the retaining wall. And then here, I'm going to use the 175 strip for the pilaster or column for strength for the retaining wall here. Alrighty guys, so this piece is 12 inches long by 6 inches wide. So what I need is, I need 4 pieces from this sheet to make 48 inches of retaining wall. So I'm going to make this retaining wall 1.5 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those. So that's going to give me 4 pieces to make 48 inches. Then with these ones, once I'm done cutting these, I'm going to cut them to size so that they're the length of this wall here. So I'm going to start off by measuring 1.5 inches down from the edge here. And I'm going to measure every so often down the styrene here. That way, when I go across, I can just make one straight line. Just like that. So now that I have the straight edge here already, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to use the straight edge to get a perfect cut. So just drag the straight edge against the edge of the straight edge. Now it's not going to cut right away, so you're going to have to make several cuts. So once you've scored it a few times, you can go ahead and pick up your styrene sheet and just break it in half. And there you go. There's your wall. So we'll go ahead and cut the rest of these, and I'll be back. So now that you have all your retaining walls cut, it's time to cut the caps. So these are going to be cut to 12 inches. So I'm going to use a longer ruler here, just like I did earlier, and I'm going to butt it up against the 0, and then I'm going to mark it at the 12 inches. Now this one just to be a little bit more easier to cut, because all you got to do is put it down and push down. And it should cut right off, just like that. So you do this to the rest of yours, cut them to the right size. So now that you've finished cutting your caps, you can move on to cutting your columns here. So since the caps are going to sit at the top of the wall here, so they're going to be glued at the top, you can cut your columns the same as the wall, which is 1.5 inches. Alrighty guys, so for the retaining wall columns, I'm going to measure out every 2 inches. That's how wide I want the columns to be. I was reading online that columns should be between 7 and 24 feet wide. I'm not a wall builder, so I have no idea what the actual width should be, but at 2 inches that should be 14.5 feet in HO scale at 2 inches. So I think that should be a very good width there, and plus it looks pleasing to the eye. So we'll go ahead and get these cut, and then we'll have them roughed in and we'll see what it looks like. So for the retaining wall columns, what I'm going to measure out is 1.5 inches on the styrene strip here, and then we're going to cut just like that. So go ahead and repeat those for as many retaining wall columns you need to have. Alright, so for the column widths, what I've done here is I've measured out every 2 inches so that I can place the columns where I need them to be. Alright, for this 12-inch wall here, what I've come up with is 7 of these columns. So 1 for each side here for the end caps, and also just 5 of them for the middle here. So what I recommend, if you're gonna put 2 walls together just like this right here, what you want to do is you just want to have one of these columns here and put it right in the middle of them, you know, so that it covers up that ugly gap and you won't see that gap later, and you won't have to fill it in with putty or anything like that. So let's get started and let's start gluing these up. So you're going to go ahead and measure both sides, so that way when you're done you can make a line to reference where you want to put your columns at, and then you're just going to make a line just right down. Alrighty guys, so we're going to start off by gluing the cap to the retaining wall. So we're going to go ahead and put that on here, and then we're going to butt it up against the straight edge here to make sure everything is true and straight here. So once you make sure that everything's straight, you're going to get some of this plastic weld here. This is very good stuff. You can get it from Model Train stuff. So you're going to get some on the brush here, and then you're going to go ahead and brush it on to the cap and the wall here, just like this. And once you've put on a few coats there, you just want to let it set a moment so you make sure that it is cemented down, so you can mess around with the rest of the wall here. So once you've let this side have some time to adhere, you can go ahead and apply cement to the rest of the retaining wall cap here. So you go ahead and paint it on just like you did the first part. So you want to make sure you've bought you've put on a few coats to make sure that it glues properly. So let this have some time to set here to make sure that it adheres properly. So once you've applied the cement to the front, you want to give a little bit of a coat to the back here just to make sure everything is going to glue. So one thing about this adhesive here is it gets into all the cracks and it seeps in just because how thin it is. So So you can let this glue down here just a bit and just let it set here for a moment. Alrighty, so now that the cap has had some time to adhere properly to the wall here, we're going to go ahead and start by adding these columns here. In order to make sure that these columns are straight, we're going to use the straight edge once more, and we're going to put the column right over the line, and we're going to apply some cement. Just like that. So you go ahead and do the same thing to the rest of the columns here. Alrighty, so if you have one wall, you're pretty much in the home stretch. You're done. Because all you got to do is add one more column just like that and glue it in. So if you're going to have two walls together, what I recommend is putting them together just like this. And then you're going to get a straight edge. And you're going to put them right up against the straight edge to make sure that they're going to be square. So once they're square, you're just going to add your cement and make sure that they glue down properly. You might need to push down on the walls here to make sure that they're together and make sure that they glue together. Just put a little bit of pressure. So now that you've let both walls have some time to adhere to each other, you're going to go ahead and add this column here to the middle to make sure you cover up the gap here. So I'm going to put it right there. Use my straight edge to make sure it's right square. And add the last bit of cement, just like that. And what you want to do is when you add the cement, you want to put it on both sides to make sure that all of these columns are glued really well. Alrighty, so what I recommend is if you're going to have these two walls together and you're going to have them curve, or even if you're just going to have them straight, what I recommend is adding a couple of scrap pieces of styrene to the back here to add support. So first what I would do is add some cement to the back here, and then put some cement on the back where you're going to apply the bracing. And then you're going to go ahead and put the brace, and you're just going to add some cement to the brace. And push down to make sure that it goes on well. You're going to do the same thing with the other one. Alrighty, so what I'm going to build here is the end cap to show the end of the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this to a taper. This is 1.5 inches by 2 inches here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up 1 inch, actually 3/4 inches from the bottom here. And I'm going to draw a line from the top corner down to the 3/4 mark. So then I'll get my X-Acto knife and cut along and score it. You can go ahead and snap it just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the end caps, or actually the cap, to go on top of this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut it slightly larger than the length from here to here, just so that I can cut the angle that's needed to butt up against the wall. So I'm just going to eyeball it and cut about right here. I'm going to hold it together with the straight edge and just glue it on. We're going to put some cement on the back here. So now that it's had some time to dry a bit, I'm just going to nip the edge here. just like this. I'm going to do the same with this side as well. There, now both sides are true to the angle here. So now I already had a scrap piece of this end cap here, or this piece of cap here, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that on as well. Then on the back we're going to add a little bit more of the cement. I'm going to go ahead and cut the angle just like I did earlier. And then at the bottom, just trim it just a bit. Just like that. So there's the end cap there, and we're going to glue it onto the wall next. Alrighty, as you can see here, the angle right here is perfect, and it's going to fit perfectly with this wall here. So we're going to go ahead and start by gluing it down. So now that I'm installing this column right here, what I did was I nipped the top edge right here so it'll fit in that corner there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Make sure it's straight and then apply some cement here. So you go ahead and flip it over and add some to the back as well. So since this is going to be on a curve right here, I'm going to reinforce this edge right here with these two pieces of styrene, just like I did on the walls earlier. So that's pretty much it for the building of this wall here. So let's go take this out and get it painted. So this is the final product, and I really like the way this came out. I like the way the paint gave it a really good matte finish. It looks like real concrete. All it needs is quick weathering and it'll look really good. So it's not installed yet, it's kind of just sitting there on the layout. I need to do a couple of other things before I actually glue it in. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you were able to follow it easily. So you may feel a little intimidated by the fact that you're going to scratch build something. Don't feel intimidated whatsoever, it's super easy. Styrene is cheap, so if you screw up, all you got to do is just throw it in the trash and start all over again. So if you have any questions or concerns, just put in a comment below. Also, if you feel like you're going to have a really long comment or it's going to be a chain of questions, just send me an email. I'm always willing to answer questions. So that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later. Take care and keep between the rails.